Welcome to r/entitled people, where we share stories from your lives about people who think the rules don't apply to them, and they should get what they want. Thank you, friends, for subscribing to the channel, and for so many likes. And today we have 3 great stories, so subscribe, hit the like button, and let's begin. The first story, coworker slacks off. I work 20 hours, miss Christmas. The second story, the boss illegally fires me without knowing what awaits him next. The third story, the guy's face was unspeakable when he realized that the camera had been filming him the whole time. The first story is in which Christmas is ruined. Yesterday, I voiced my considerable frustrations at needing to come in for an 11-hour shift on my day off. Still not the longest shift I've ever pulled. Tonight, gentle readers, we shall speak of the longest shift I've ever pulled. On Christmas. Hang on, gotta do this right. 'Twas the night before Christmas, when all through the inn, not a guestie was stirring. All were tucked in. The audit was finished, paperwork done with great care, and the Karens were complaining, far away elsewhere. So it came to pass that I, your humble narrator, had to work the audit shift on Christmas Eve. Not a problem, really. Done it before. Lacking in the joys of small children, I really didn't need to be anywhere in the morning. I would get off shift, take a short 4-hour nap, then head to my parents' place for Christmas dinner. It was to be a good Christmas, as I had managed to get gifts that were thoughtful, meaningful, and slightly above the "it's the thoughts that counts" threshold. My nephew in particular was getting a large Lego set of the sort I always coveted when I was his age. I was determined to be the awesome uncle, or at least the cool one, and had spent my Christmas bonus to get it. I had made fresh coffee, and put out the breakfast, slices of fruitcake and cookies instead of pastries, in honor of the day. Tidied up the back, and waited for my relief to show up, who really should have been here by now. 7:18? It wasn't like Eric to be so late. Nearly 20 minutes now. Where was he? A word about Eric. He had been working for us for about 2 months. Good worker, learned fast, and normally quite punctual. Overall a solid employee, whom we were happy to have. So it worried me a great deal that he hadn't shown up. I tried calling him, but to no avail. Had he forgotten that he was scheduled? Crap, not good. Another call then. No answer. A bit of panic. The GM was off with family at their cabin in the mountains, and the AGM, her daughter, was with her. Not nepotism, she genuinely worked for the position, and was arguably the more competent of the two. I fired off texts to both of them, but knew they might not respond. Calls to other employees went unanswered. After all, it was Christmas morning. They were busy. Finally at 8 a.m., an hour after he was supposed to be on shift, Eric calls. He overslept because the phone ran out of magic phone juice, and his alarm didn't go off. Not to worry, he just has to get ready. Be there in an hour or so. Fine, okay. The nap will be a shorter one. This is not ideal, but well within tolerances. I comfort myself with the thoughts of my folks cooking. They're each excellent cooks on their own, and together they produce food that makes angels weep with joy. The morning progresses. A couple checkouts, folks grabbing breakfast, nothing major. It's now 9 a.m., 2 hours after I should have gone home. Waiting. 9:20. Eric calls. He hasn't left the house. It seems his car is broken down. He's going to see if he can get a tow truck. On Christmas. It's gonna be a while. I made some interesting sounds at that point. Now, you clever folks might have noticed something. Why tow from the house? None of the service places are gonna be open. And wouldn't a taxi be better to get to work? I was in a bit of a state at that point, and didn't really catch on. I call my folks. Let them know I'll be late. How late? Not sure. It's looking like dinner may be late. I don't want to be driving without some sleep, especially as I'm already drowsy. Fine, tough it out. Phone rings again. It's the GM this time. She's surprised I'm still there. There's no cell reception up where she is. Didn't get my texts. She has bad news. The person who was supposed to come in after Eric is called out. Her flight was canceled due to weather. Nobody else can make it. The AGM is driving down to fill in as soon as possible, but it's going to be a very long while, as they're up in the mountains. I explain what's been happening, and how I really can't wait that long. Can't anyone else come in because Christmas? It was nearly noon, and I may have begged and pleaded a bit, to try and make it to see my family. The GM promises to call Eric, find out what's going on. If he can't make it in, she'll find someone somehow. Maybe. She calls back after a bit. So what did you say was the reason he called out? Well, he was late because he overslept. Then his car wouldn't start. Why? There's a long, weary sigh on the other end of the line. So, he texted the AGM that his car had a flat tire, and he told me that he was sick and couldn't make it at all. There's a moment of pure shock as I realized what has happened. Eric never intended to come in at all. This wasn't just an unfortunate situation, this was betrayal on a fundamental level. The idiot couldn't even be bothered to keep his story straight. Worse, I was not going to have Christmas. Anger. I've not been that upset in a very long time. I was going to beat him with a tire iron. I was peeved. Gentle readers, I'm not a violent person by any stretch. But I think that if he were standing there before me at that moment, they would still be finding his body years later. But he was safely away at a distance, enjoying Christmas with his family, while I tearfully informed mine that I wasn't going to be able to make it. There would be no happy Christmas miracle. It wouldn't be until almost 7 p.m. that the AGM came in. 20 hours on shift. I was exhausted. While the housekeepers were in, I had napped in the back with them, waking me if anything needed doing. Fortunately, we're dreadfully slow on holidays, as I was absolutely wiped out. I have no memory of going home, only that I woke up, still in my work clothes 16 hours later. I went and had a small, sad Boxing Day lunch of leftovers with my folks, the rest of the family having gone back home. I was not the coolest uncle. The GM fired Eric. She was livid that he could be such a great employee, then pull a bullcrap move like that. Straight up told him he was done with the hotel, that he was no longer welcome on the property, and that his final check would be mailed to him. The second story is, I got written up at work and suspended for being on social media, Reddit, while on my break. So on Friday, my boss calls me into his office near the end of the day. He proceeds to tell me that he's noticed me on my phone using unauthorized social media. He said that work is not the place to be openly viewing trash content while in the workplace. I was taken back and didn't know what to say. I asked him what he means by unauthorized social media, what he seems to be authorized. He said that Reddit is not permitted as it contains illegal content. I literally laughed and said, really? I was in a cryptocurrency chat room. Nothing to do with illegal content. And what you do in your spare time on Reddit doesn't mean everyone does. He didn't like that answer and told me that I just earned a suspension and should remain at home until further notice. He then handed me a written warning for abusing company policy with regards to use of social media. Of course, I rejected, accepting the letter, and he wanted me to sign it, which I said I would not, then I left. One of my coworkers said to me that after I left, he told everyone that I was suspended because I was using unauthorized social media in the workplace, and it'll fire me when I come back. I double-checked the company policies, and the only thing it says about use of social media is that it's not permitted on company equipment. Nothing about your personal phone. I don't think he has a leg to stand on, and I'm going to contact a labor lawyer on Monday. I was on my personal time in an official break area. I'm going to effing sue this MF for wrongful termination, harassment, and discussing my situation with my coworkers. Update. Guess I maybe should have changed the title because I am now fired. It is what I was expecting as some of my coworkers gave me the heads up over the weekend, so I was prepared heading into work today. I met with a lawyer yesterday and was very prepared for what was going to happen today and how to present myself, but I was still a bit shocked. When I came in, the receptionist greeted me and told me that my boss would like to see me, and just to wait at reception. She then rang him that I was there. I was directed into one of our meeting rooms where my boss, coworker, and 2 security guards were waiting. Sitting on the table was 2 boxes and a file. I was told to take a seat, and for the next 20 minutes I was berated with insults and lame reasons, most of which revolves around the fact I was on Reddit, which is a banned site. I was told not to argue or give any kind of pushback, but not to sign anything. So after 20 minutes of hearing why I was being fired, I was handed a piece of paper and told to sign it, which I thanked him for, took and folded it up nicely, and placed it in my jacket pocket. My boss repeated that he needed me to sign it, which I told him I would not be signing anything, on advice of my lawyer, which seemed to stun him when I told him that. I then thanked him for my last 5 years and tried to offer up a flash drive with some work on it, which he rejected before I could even finish talking. He then proceeded to ask the 2 security guards to escort me out of the building, and told me that inside the 2 boxes was my personal items from my work area. I tried again to speak before getting up, and he cut me off as I was trying to tell him about the project I was working on, and he said to me that maybe it's best that my lawyer do the talking to their lawyer. I stood up and went into my wallet, took a card out, dropped it on the table. He said, "What is this for?" I said my lawyer's contact info. He wanted to make sure you had it. The last word that he said to me as I walked out the door was that if I wanted to make things messy, they'll make it 100 times harder on me, so don't expect my last check anytime soon. Thank goodness I live in a country that has solid pro-worker labor laws. Canada. Because these guys effed up trying to screw me over, and in doing so, they just got royally screwed. A little background on that flash drive. I was trying to offer it up to contain my crucial updated programming files for their top client. Ever since COVID, we've been doing most of our work from home. Just had to come in a few times a week most recently. Most of the updates in my project was supposed to be stored on a drive, but I didn't like taking it to and from work, so I would just update it every so often. This was normal practice for all of us, including my boss. So last week on the Friday I was sent home, I logged into my HD to look, and I changed 2 files, so it looks to my dumb boss that I did my monthly updates last Friday. But really I didn't. I was gonna do them this Friday. So they have an outdated and flawed version that will have many issues, and unless they hire someone in the next couple of days, I don't think they'll notice this issue till it's too late, as we completed most of our beta testing already, and deadline from our client is in 2 weeks. So kinda feels good knowing that I got the last laugh. I told everything to my lawyer. He also has possession of the drive. Looks like I have a bit of spare time on my hands. We'll start my job search next week. I already know the old company will hire me back, so not too worried. I just can't wait to take these efforts through the ringer. My lawyer says that I have a rock solid case. And the last story is, smile, you're being filmed by a hidden camera. I work in the downtown main area of the city. The street lights are even on a timer to keep traffic moving at a consistent pace, which is great for weekend nights, when the kids come out to show off their fancy cars that daddy bought them, by drag racing down the streets where the lights are working for them. Surprisingly, I've only seen one accident during my shift, and it was with a motorcycle, but that's another and unremarkable story. Suffice to say, the police aren't an uncommon sight around here during those hours, much to our amusement. I'm sitting in the SOC with T again, when I see a car tear into the visitor lot next to the building faster than the cars on the street. The lot is chained up to prevent road access, so we can only get in from an alley on the weekends, so any cars that pull in get attention to make sure whether they're an employee, or we give a bored cop an easy parking ticket to hand out. This car came in so fast it jumped the curb next to the door, then U-turned into a parking spot. The driver quickly left the car and ran across the road to sit at a bus stop where his buddies give him fist bumps all around. I sigh and start wandering out to write down the car information. While I'm getting my things at the front desk, I get a call from T. T, hey, did you call the police? Because 4 cars just pulled into the lot. I gather things quicker and rush out where the cops are shining their lights in the car and already taking down information. When they see me, they all start asking at the same time if I know where the driver went. I call up T, who's been keeping an eye on the driver since they showed up, who's left the bus stop by this point. I try to be the go-between for T to tell one officer who stayed behind, to tell his officers via radio where the driver was, but eventually just hand the officer the phone and let them talk, so I only hear one side of the conversation. The driver walked a block away with his friends before one of the cars pulled up to them, but at that point he was just off camera, so we couldn't see exactly what was going on. T tells the officer the general appearance of the kid, and he can pick him out of the group, so the officer making the stop marches the one closest to the description to the street corner, has him face our building and asks into his radio, "Is this him?" "Yep." "Okay, we got him," and stuffs him into his back seat. What made this moment so great was how he could see the kid's face become horrified when he realized he'd been on camera the entire time. We were laughing about that for the rest of our shift. Thanks for watching. Hit the like button and subscribe to the channel.